are we being fed a line of BS about this country's housing market? Are prices going up? Are prices going down? What in the world are we supposed to believe? Well, we're going to discuss that today using actual data. Data's a real thing. Stay tuned. Hey neighbors, Catherine Newman here, wanting to give you a few minutes of recent data to help clear up some of this nebulous hogwash we're all hearing concerning the housing market in our country. And we've all been hearing contradictory messages on a daily basis about whether the housing market is stable, or is it crashing, or is it correcting, or are aliens from outer space buying up all of the real estate? So if you get any value from this information, I sure encourage you, hit that like button and subscribe to this YouTube channel so I can continue to keep you updated on both the national market, because the national market affects every local market, and specifically my local market right here in Sarasota and Manatee County. So you've all seen the media in action these days. IMHO, in my humble opinion, they like to share biased, one-sided, negative, panic-inducing stories because they think you and I believe everything they say.
I can't put anything on the internet that isn't true. Here comes my date. I met him on the internet. He's a French model.
Bonjour.
They also believe that we don't use our own brains to research things in order to come to our own educated conclusions. Well, not today, media.
But not today.
Because according to national data from several sources, we'll see with our very own eyes that prices have been going up incrementally this year, 2023, in most markets in the country, but they're coming down a little bit right here in our own neck of the woods. Now that means they're not drastically dropping, but we have seen a better correction from where they were during the unicorn years, where prices were $50,000, $60,000, $75,000 over asking price. It was just crazy, right? So now we've seen that correction, and now we're adjusting to proper prices for our market. So let's break it down starting on the national level, okay? The national level, we're gonna look at this chart. And again, this is housing market data on the national level from three very big collectors of housing data, Zillow, Black Knight, and Freddie Mac. And here's what this graph shows. So in the first half of 2022, home prices rose significantly, and these are the little green bars on the left of the graph here, from about January 2022 to about June. And of course, those increases were dramatic and obviously unsustainable. So that was the end of the unicorn years, where people were overpaying for houses by $25,000, $50,000, or even more. And of course, there were multiple offers on most of our listings due to inventory levels being under 1 month. So in the second half of the year, prices went through a correction, and they started to dip down a bit, and that's what we see right here in this little red section. With this, those slight declines were very shallow and short-lived, but what did the media do? Well, they really focused on those drops in their headlines and in their reporting, and they started talking about market crashes and tons of foreclosures. And of course, that created a lot of fear and uncertainty among consumers, which makes total sense. But here's what hasn't been covered fully or as much or equally in our media, and that's what you see on the right side of these graphs, starting at the beginning of this year, 2023. So far in 2023, what are we seeing here? Well, prices are going up once again, but this time at a more normal pace, and that's these green bars on the right side of the graph here. And that's after the price gains that were too high, and then that corrections that happened in the middle, that followed the second half of 2022. So if you see the fact that all three of these reports show more normal or typical price appreciation this year, and that of course is good news for the housing market. But because real estate is always about the local market when it pertains to where you live and where I live, let's look at my local market in terms of prices here in Manatee and Sarasota County. So if you're thinking about living here or you have something to sell here, you need to pay attention to what's going on here locally. So again, checking out our most recent data from our local board here in Sarasota, Manatee County, September 23. And we don't have October's yet. That won't be out until the end of this month, November. But looking at September, now this is year over year changes. We'll see that closed sales for both single family and condos increased year over year. You'll see the numbers there for both of those. But if you look at the median price for single family and condo, you'll see that they both decreased from September of 2022. Again, we just saw that other chart where we saw that things are starting to finally moderate. At this time last year, big price gains were finally coming down. We'll see here that 27 days to contract for single family, 39 days for condos. And that Sarasota right now has 3.5 months worth of supply for single family and 3.8 months supply for condos. So this is what's going on in Sarasota right now. And if we do the same for Manatee County for September 2023, again, we'll see that the closed sales for that month, September 2023, in both single family and condos increased dramatically from September of last year. But again, look at these median prices for Manatee County. It is negative 2.5% there at $503,495, and condos actually went higher for Manatee County. So that price did climb a little bit. Days to contract, 29 days for single family, 46 days for condo. So it's taken a little bit longer on the market to go under contract. But look at the supply of homes here, people, for Manatee County. There's less than 3 months in the single family and just a little over 3 months for condos. So things are still kind of hopping in our communities. That's why the prices are going to stay a little bit more elevated, maybe what you're seeing in the rest of the country, because we don't have as much supply and because we have all of our seasonal traffic getting ready to come here. So that's what's happening right now for the month of September 2023 in Manatee County. And then let's look at Sarasota County median prices for the past 2.5 years, looking back to 2021, starting in January. You can kind of see here on this line that they were in the threes for most residential homes in Sarasota County. I think the most they went up to in December was 420, but you can kind of see the trend here. And then look at 2022. Look at the price jumps month over month from 2021 to 2022. Then we started to have that correction, even though it didn't really show a whole lot in Sarasota County. But now look at 2023. Still had a little bit of a surplus in January, still went up in February and in March and in April and in June. And then you see a little bit of a slowdown starting in about June through September. So we have started to see those prices come down, like I said before. So this is what's happening, what has been happening in Sarasota County with median sales price since 2021 up to today. And looking at the same time period, 2021, 2022, up to today in 2023 for the month's worth of inventory for Sarasota County. Of course, you can see 2021, there was just nothing here. Of course, we're in the middle of a pandemic still. 2022, it didn't get much better until later the last few months, which is why we started to see those prices kind of moderate a little bit. And then, of course, look at the beginning of 2023. We had 5 months worth of inventory because builders were back to work and they were starting to build things. And then they got absorbed really, really quickly, which is why the prices kind of went up a little bit. And now we'll see in September, it says 4 months, but I just showed you it's actually 3.8 months worth of supply, neither here nor there. But that shows you that inventory has increased which is why we're starting to see some of those numbers moderate a little bit. They're not drastically dropping, but they are coming down a little bit. So we'll see what happens in the new year with inventory and with median pricing for our area, again, because it's so different than the rest of the country. And then, of course, here's the same information on median prices for the past 2.5 years for Manatee County, starting with January. And you'll see the prices from 2021 drastically jumping up in 2022, the whole year, really. In Manatee County, the prices really did not come down at all. But then you see 2023. So we stayed up in January year over year from 2022. And we started to kind of go down a little bit here, 10,000 here, where you look at March from 506 median to 480. And then, of course, from April, we seemed to jump up again in April. And then we started to moderate a little down. So you can kind of see a downward trend there in 2023. And I think that's the way we're going to end out the year, is just a moderate. We're just really correcting the huge price gains that we had. They're not drastically dropping in Manatee County either, but they are coming down. So that's good news for those of you that want or need to move. If you don't need to move, then it's too expensive right now, of course, to get a mortgage. But these numbers help those of you to know that if you are buying here in Manatee or Sarasota County, that the pricing for the homes is coming down a little bit. Now let's look at the month's worth of inventory for Manatee County. And the same inventory chart, of course, for Manatee County, 2021, 2022, 2023. You can just see, again, kind of the same old stuff here. 2021, there just was no inventory because builders weren't building anything. 2022, they were really doing all they could to kind of catch up. And then they kind of caught up in January, 6 months worth of supply just in January, but that quickly got depleted. And here we are, 2023. At the end of September's data, again, it was 2.8, so right about 3 months worth of inventory. So again, we still have very low inventory in Manatee and Sarasota County, nothing like the rest of the country. So let's keep an eye on it and see where it goes at the beginning of the year.
So in terms of how the overall media nationally talks about the housing market, you're going to start hearing that the market has slowed down. But is that necessarily true for Florida? Not necessarily. Why? Well, because remember, real estate value, it's always about location, location, location. And the national media will be speaking predominantly about the combined seasonality of most of the other states in our country. But honey, Florida is its own ball of wax.
Yes, it is the first episode of The Whole Ball of Wax. A little of everything, a lot of nothing, some other stuff in between.
Why is that? Well, because Florida does not have the same seasonality as most of the other states because we're in the endless summer state. What do I mean by that, by seasonality? Well, as you know, if you live in any of the other states, and of course I'm not talking about Southern California or maybe Nevada or New Mexico or Arizona, I'm talking, or Florida for that matter, of course, I'm talking about most of the country where it gets really, really cold for the rest of the fall and of course into winter. Well, we don't experience that much here in Florida. I'm not saying it doesn't get cold once in a while, but we don't experience that kind of seasonality where the rest of the country starts to slow down with real estate transactions. The prices seem to kind of moderate or maybe go down. They might have less homes on the market, that sort of thing. Well, for us, our seasonality really kind of slows down in our summer, and it's opposite that in the other states. They typically have a great season of selling and buying from spring until the end of summer in most of the rest of the country. So for us here in Florida, we have this a little bit of a slowdown in the summer, but then we start to kick back in right about the end of October. We have a few of the snowbirds coming down from up north and from Canada and from other countries. And of course, a lot of these people are coming down here to buy something. Maybe they vacation down here. Maybe they've been keeping their eye on it like most of us did for several years before we moved here. So we start getting our snowbirds coming down typically the end of October, but it really picks up right after New Year's Eve when all the parties and everybody's hungover and had a big party on New Year's Eve. About the 1st of January, we start seeing more tourists. We see our seasonal snowbirds coming down, and of course, just vacationers coming. That's January, February. Then March, what happens here in Florida is we have all kinds of people coming for spring break. And still, seasonal people are here from that point. They are also here until about Mother's Day. So we have such a great pool of buyers coming into our market starting end of October, early November, then really picking up in January, and everything kind of slows back down after Mother's Day. So we're getting ready to go in our seasonal time where we sell a lot of homes or people put their homes on the market. That's going to change our numbers drastically from what the rest of the country typically faces. So if you're hearing in the headlines that prices have slowed down and prices have changed, you're going to hear most of that. I'm not saying that that's not true or that's not going to happen, but remember, a lot of those housing market reports you're going to hear in the headlines and on the news is going to predominantly be speaking about the rest of the country, not necessarily Florida. And like I'm telling a lot of my buyers right now, because it's true, we're really seeing it right now at the end of this year, there are builders here who have excellent pricing, excellent incentives because they have some inventory homes that they want to get off their books. So if you're in a position to buy, some of my buyers are coming down here, they're taking advantage of it, then they're getting all of those really great deals. But they also know that here, especially on the Gulf Coast here in Manatee and Sarasota County, where we're really close to the beaches, these people that are coming down to buy in January, they know the builders are going to start those prices a little bit higher, right? They're going to start them higher. They're going to test out the first quarter, see how foot traffic, buyer traffic is, see if those prices are hanging tough. And then they'll make adjustments. Do they keep going up now that we've got all of the buyers here trying to buy something from other states and from other countries? We're going to see about that when the first quarter of 2024 happens, because that's how it happens here in Florida, totally different than the rest of the country. And when the national media is saying that home price appreciation typically starts to ease up this time of year, that does not necessarily include most of Florida, because, like I just said, we're getting ready to be right in the middle of our busiest buying and selling season.
You should come in, take advantage. It's going to be huge.
So don't let reports from the media confuse you with slowed price appreciation in Florida, because with already low inventory that we still are under 5 months, 3 months, 2 months of inventory. And of course, we have all of the tourists and the seasonal buyers and the snowbirds. They're going to be here for the next 6 to 7 months. And that is going to place increased demand on the market for homes to purchase here in Florida, which always leads to what? You guessed it, price growth. Now, before you throw a tomato at me,
we do not throw tomatoes in this town.
I know, I just gave you data showing how prices for single family homes in both Manatee and Sarasota have been gradually coming down, and that is true. As a matter of fact, some of the best new construction prices, deals, and of course incentives are happening right now. Why? Well, because builders that have inventory homes, they want to get those homes off the books or at least under contract before the end of 2023. But at the beginning of January 2024, those builders are going to look at the buyer traffic that's coming in over the first quarter of 2024, because they know that we're going to have an increased seasonal population and they're going to adjust their prices accordingly. Do I think they're going to go up? Yes. I believe they will begin to increase base pricing on their homes just to see how buyers are reacting to the floor plans that they have and the communities. And I think with the influx of buyers in the market coming down here during our season, the already low inventory of homes will put upward pressure on the pricing, because that's pretty much what happens every season.
Under pressure.
You guys that meet with me to go on tours of new construction homes have already heard from the mouths of almost all of those sales reps that their prices are going to increase in 2024. Now, do I believe those prices will be increased dramatically? No, I don't think so. I think the builders will introduce slight price increases to start the new year, and then they're going to see what the reaction is from our local market to see if they can sustain the price increases to come. So time will tell. Let's talk about low inventory. Even though higher mortgage rates cause buyer demand to kind of moderate, they also cause the supply of available homes to go down. That, of course, is because of the mortgage rate lock-in effect. That means when rates rise, some homeowners are reluctant to sell and lose, of course, their current low mortgage rate just to take on a higher one for their next home. Makes total sense. I wouldn't do it. Not many people I know would do it unless they really have to move. So with higher mortgage rates impacting both buyers and sellers, the supply and demand equation of the housing market is going to be affected. Prices are going to continue to rise. Not crazy, but they are going to continue to increase. Again, not like during the pandemic years, but they are going to have appreciation nonetheless. Here's how this impacts you. Firstly, if you are a buyer and you're wanting to move to Florida, make sure you're aware that most of the headlines that you're going to read and the news that you're going to hear relates predominantly to the rest of the country and not necessarily Florida. Of course, that's true for those of you that want, or maybe you need to, sell your Florida home. So buyers, if you've been waiting to buy a home because maybe you were afraid its value is going to drop, hopefully seeing the data today that we talked about, home prices going up nationally, even though they're going down a little bit here, that should make you feel better, of course, because buying a home gives you a chance to own something that historically becomes more valuable over time. So it's not going to be something that you flip, right, and make a lot of money on right now. You need to sit on it for a little while, but you will gain appreciation. Now, sellers, if you've been holding off selling your home, maybe because you were worried about how changing home prices are going to impact its value, you're not going to know until you call someone in your local market that can walk you through what the current value is of your home based on its location, the other homes around it, based on its condition. Things have been really different here in Florida for resale buyers because you're competing so much with new construction. So you won't know what the real true value is until you talk to someone. So I really encourage you to have someone out to your house. If you don't know someone and you're right here in Manatee and Sarasota County, I would love to meet with you, share with you what the value is, but any agent can do that for you. And if you have to move, well, you definitely need to know what the value is, and don't be afraid that it won't sell because there is so much competition with the with the new construction, because I've given you some tips here in this video here that talks about what sellers can do right now to compete with new construction. So make sure you watch that video. It's great information about how to enhance certain things in your home and what to really market in your resale home that will attract buyers that aren't just looking at new construction. Maybe they'll come and look at your house as well. So remember, I can't stress this enough, that most of the Florida market is totally different than the rest of the country. Our areas here are going to continue to have an influx of people visiting here, retiring here, and of course buying homes here, even in the midst of the highest interest rates we've seen in over a decade. And over the next few weeks, real estate experts and professionals in the field, they're going to be gathering even more data from the last quarter of this year. And we're going to be putting out forecasts for 2024, because seeing the current national data showing that home appreciation is rising is, of course, good news for sellers. It's good news for potential buyers. Now, maybe not in the area of the price you'll pay for your next home, but because you can be sure that the value for your next home will continue to appreciate over time, you can know that you're making a good investment for your future and, of course, for your family. So if you want to move, or maybe you need to move, either as a buyer or a seller, and you want to know if now is an opportune time for you based on your situation and, of course, your long-term financial goals, then be sure to hit me up so we can discuss if making a move is right for you. Because for some of you, and I'm the first one to tell you, I'll sit with people at their table and say, you know what, now is not the best time for you to do anything. And of course, I'm very open to talking with you about that too. It is not necessarily the best time for some buyers and for some sellers.
You want the truth?
I asked for the truth. Thank you for being so honest.
And I'm going to be right here to keep updates coming at you. So if you want to be informed about what's taking place in these markets here on the Gulf Coast of Florida, be sure to like this video and subscribe to this YouTube channel so that you're always alerted every week when a new video is available. I'm Catherine Newman. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to see you next week. See you then.